Welcome to another episode of Guide Live B2B Jam Sessions. Today, I am joined by the phenomenal John Lay, who is the CEO of Talented Learning, and he's also the lead analyst with Talented Learning. And he is the trusted source for all information, industry veteran, man. I'm telling y'all, around the L&D space, learning and management systems. And I'm really excited to talk with them because there's been so much change happening, I think, in the last few months, one in L&D and in the learning management discipline and space. And since 2014, John has devoted literally his life and himself to helping over 100 LMS buyers define their requirements and buy the right learning system for their needs. I'm really excited to talk to John because he's a great guy. If you look on his website and you find any picture on John, he's always happy. He's always showing enthusiasm. So I'm super excited to talk with him and see and get some of his thoughts on some of the trends he's seen in the LMS space and where he sees the industry going moving forward post-COVID. With that said, let's bring John on. John, how are you doing, brother?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. What a pleasure and an honor.
So thank you for your time and joining us today, man. What's been going on in your world during COVID, man?
Oh, it's been busy. It's been busy. If there's one industry that's not getting a day off, it's the learning technology industry in COVID. Organizations of every type and flavor, if they haven't been investing in learning systems and learning technology, it's now a priority because they have to educate their employees, but more importantly, it's about business continuity because they have to educate their customers and their partners too, and they're using the learning systems to do that. So there's a lot of activity. I speak to vendors every day and get briefings, and almost to a one, they're just talking about how slammed they are at helping everybody get through this COVID.
Yeah,
learning.
Yeah. And you've been in the industry for years now, man. What do you think is different about what you're seeing now prior to, let's say 5 or 10 years ago?
Yeah, so I got a long horizon. I've been in the learning technology industry for 25 years, so I've been watching it. But what's really changed is over the years, I don't think anybody disagrees with the efficacy of online learning, but organizations do disagree about whether it's effective for this or that. And so they get caught in these debates, and it's been a slow process. So learning management, yes, because you needed to manage your employee compliance, but using learning as a strategic differentiator, turning yourself into a knowledge culture, that was a lot harder to do. But now there's an urgency because now everybody's online, everybody's virtual. You still have to fight through this and get to the other side as an organization and win your competitive battle. And right now, strategic learning online is a great way to enable that.
Yeah, man. And I think you touched on the value of business continuity and really being strategic and intentional. John, I want to really hanker down really quick and have you share a little bit about kind of your background and your career history, man, in this space, because it's an amazing narrative. I've had the chance to read so much about you, and it's actually an honor even getting to speak with you. What really got you passionate about kind of being one of the leading voices in the LMS space?
Wow, that's a great question, and thanks. 25 years ago, I got a master's degree in instructional technology, and I've been in the center of the space ever since then. And oddly, for an instructional designer guy, I got into selling enterprise learning management systems, as a quota carrying sales guy for 14 years. And really, the combination of using instructional design and selling learning systems was like chocolate and peanut butter. It was really a good background to understand what learning organizations were doing and really help them. And but during all that time, all the pundits that I would read and the blogs and the magazines, it always seemed to be coming from marketing folks and not anybody that was living their front lines on the buying and selling of these learning systems. And I thought that voice was missing, and I thought, yeah, maybe it could be me. So I rolled the dice and took a chance, and here I am 7 years later. Talented Learning, we're going strong. Talented Learning is a research and consulting firm dedicated to studying the learning technology industry. We've reviewed now about 250 different learning systems in the marketplace. We spend our time categorizing and grouping them and figuring out like with like and what they're good at and what they're bad at, so that we can help learning system buyers figure out who they should be talking to. Because in the learning industry, we have about 1,000 different solutions. And at first blush, they all look the same. And so you really got to get digging into them to figure out what the difference is. Otherwise, it's really easy to buy something that's wrong for you and not even know it until you're done buying it. So organizations need help figuring out what they really need and who they should be talking to. And we study the marketplace independently so we can make those matches in a strategic way.
Man, that's so powerful. And what I love about what you're saying too is that you all always have a pulse on what buyers want. And more importantly, the new vendors, the new sellers, the new companies who are selling, the best software, given, times like post-COVID, right? I want to ask you, are you seeing some specific trends in terms of maybe what vendors are not offering on the platform or what they're selling in terms of the types of LMSs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. So as I studied the 250 vendors so far, I was able to put them into a series of different groups or buckets, and it's based on who the end users actually are of the solutions. So academic solutions for college are different than academic LMSs for K through 12.
Yep.
And corporate systems for employees are much different than corporate systems for customer learning. Yep. And systems for associations and professional development and member-based and nonprofits have another set of vendors that are different. So the number one trend that I see is specialization. Because there's these different groups, there's crossover technology that's applicable in all groups, but what's different about each group is where the innovation comes from. Yeah. And so instead of just everybody innovating the same stuff, it's more like a star explosion of innovation in these different sectors. And so what's going on in customer learning is exciting. They're working with Salesforce and they're just meshing the line between CRM and LMS. Yeah. And what are they doing in employee learning? Well, they're adding learning experience and AI recommendations and, try to get the right content to the right people to build a culture of learning. And associations, they're worried about commerce. They're worried about selling their content to other businesses or individuals and the whole focus on the business of learning. And so the features of e-commerce and managing that are different. And so depending on where you're at, that's where the innovation is coming from. And that's what we try to do is just try to keep our thumb on the pulse of that, which is harder than it sounds.
Yeah.
With so many.
Yeah, what I love about Talented Learning is that you all really cover a wide range. It's not very narrow. It's you guys look at the entire landscape and you offer buyers and sellers a really, really great outlook and a really, really great understanding of, okay, this is how we can support you. And I think you've done a fantastic job doing that, John, by the way.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that.
And it's so true because, even for us within Guide, we're seeing those trends in the industry. And I think one thing that's really powerful for us, we're also seeing this rise in bite-sized video content as well. Sure. In terms of helping people learn. Yeah. In fact, right before I got on with you, take a bite-sized video content. I'm awesome, doing this. Yeah, that's a trend. All right. How do you think the shift to remote work is going to affect organizations to think differently, right? Now that every one of their workers is at home, living, learning, and trying to survive this pandemic, what do you think leaders should be thinking of?
Well, now with everybody working at home, without a doubt, you get to see who's been hiding and who's been doing the work. And I think organizations are really embracing that. At first, for a lot of years. So I'm a remote employee. Talented Learning is 100% remote. We do it all virtual. Before that, I moved out into the country of Pennsylvania and work remote whenever I can. So almost 20 years now, I haven't worked in a real office. And so I'm attuned to it, but a lot of employers were scared that people would hide to watch TV, they'll play video games and they won't work. And they're probably right because I did all those things. But what's different now is that since everybody is working from home, there's not a stigma. And it was always like, John's not in the office. You always carried a stigma of not being a hard worker if you were pulling days off at home, even if they were only apart. But now that everybody's working there, there's not a stigma. Everybody's got their video cameras on. Everybody's using Slack or equivalent, and it's just as productive. Now, do you miss some of the water cooler stuff? Yeah, sure. But you can still do that on Slack. I do it every day on 10 calls just like this. So, I just think companies are becoming more mature. And I think the future, what what you'll see is less mandatory in the office. And so I think when it's mandatory for that collaboration physically, you'll have that. But, I think we're going to have COVID for, who knows, but another year perhaps till we get through the other side of the vaccinations and stuff. And, by that time, I just don't think you put the horse back in the barn.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. No, and we definitely see the same. And I think you've been sharing a lot of content lately around some of the trends that you've been seeing. I would love for you to let our guide community know where they can follow more of your work and learn more about the things that Talented Learning is doing.
Excellent. Well, our website is talentedlearning.com, so you can go there. The way that we started a business of trying to help buyers is we had to find a way that we could find LMS buyers before they wanted to talk to LMS vendors. And guess what? Every single LMS vendor has that same strategic goal on being the first one to talk to you. And so the only way I could figure out how to do that was through content. And so
it's true.
preaching to the choir, I'm sure. And so I started off by writing my very first blog. I had a grand total of 1 follower, for a few months until all of a sudden 2, then 3. And, now we have about 50,000 followers and we've written about 225-ish custom blog posts. And they're not like, hey, I baked eggs. They're like serious articles on learning technology, business, functionality, LMSs, application of a business case, all to help folks. And it's all tagged and categorized pretty nice so you can dig in and really get deep. We also have about 75 custom webinars, 1 hour on demand webinars on all different topics of learning technology, and have a podcast, arguably not as good as yours for sure, but I have a podcast too called the Talented Learning Show, where we interview, just like this, we interview learning technology experts from both the vendor side and from the application side from all over the world, and get their stories, kind of like you're kind enough doing with me today.
Man, John, you guys are doing amazing work. Thank you so much for leading your movement, because I think what we're seeing, it's a transformational time in the LMS space. And I think a lot of leaders such as you, who are actually advocating and really helping it easier for sellers, and more importantly, helping it easy for buyers as well, are doing the work, right? And you're leading this amazing movement, because I think due to COVID-19, we're seeing this renaissance period and shift, as you mentioned, in terms of how leaders are thinking about learning and business continuity and upskilling their workforce. You can't be stagnant anymore. You have to be proactive, and you really have to, I think, empower your knowledge workers.
Yeah, agree. Totally.
Yeah. John, man, thank you so much, brother.
Thanks,
for
Tim.
On and hopping on the Unleashing the Future of Work, a Guide Live podcast with us. I want us to get really personal. I want us to really quick rapid fire round. Right. Who is John's favorite football team?
Oh, Philadelphia Eagles. Not a question. I bleed green.
Yeah. Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. What is?
How about yourself?
So I formerly used to be a New England Patriots fan.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I used to be but I'm not really a Patriots fan anymore. Yeah. I actually pay more attention to what's going on in tech than football. So, yeah. How about, what is a meal you can't live without?
Pizza,
man. I
love pizza.
I agree with that, man. And last question.
Yep.
What would be your favorite color?
It's blue.
It's blue.
It's blue, just like the shirt I'm wearing.
And it also, I think Talented Learning's website it has a blue theme to it as well.
It's got some blue running through it for sure.
Love it, man. John, thank you so much, man.
You're welcome, Tim.
And please, for those of you listening within our guide community, definitely make sure that you connect with John and the work that they're doing with Talented Learning. Be a part of their movement and learn. If you are a buyer, if you're a seller, learn more about how you can buy the best LMS tools and not go with the worst choice, from John and the Talented Learning team. John, it's truly been a pleasure, my brother.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Brother.